Welcome. I'm Liz with Golden Eagle Audubon Society, and we're so glad you are here for the presentation by Jacob Briggs, Birding with Kids. It's a great topic. And Jacob is quite the expert. Now, Jacob works for Wild Birds Unlimited in Boise, but his full-time job is father of 4 children who have all been out birding many a time. And Jacob enjoys birding with his children, and he's going to share some tips about birding with kids to make it fun for everybody. I'll share those tips with you in just a minute. But let's talk a little bit about Golden Eagle Audubon. We are a local nonprofit founded in 1972. Isn't that something? We have a free e-newsletter. Our annual membership started just $25 a year. We host a lot of educational events and field trips, and our website is full of resources, and we even have a little section on birding with kids on our birding resources webpage. And all of that can be found at goldeneagleaudubon.org. And you can also find us on Instagram and on Facebook. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Jacob.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight for Birding with Kids. My name is Jacob Briggs. I do work for Wild Birds Unlimited, and I do have 4 kids. Hopefully some of the stuff we'll share with you tonight will help you get out birding with your kids or grandkids or whoever you want to go birding with, because really this is for everybody. So let's get started. So when we go birding with kids, the main thing we're looking to take away from here is to teach your kids to love birds, wildlife, and nature. This is focused on birding, but you also want them to have an appreciation for all the wildlife you see, all the nature you see, just enjoying being outside with the world we live in, with everything on technology. It's hard to get that time to be out there and enjoy that and see what we really do have around us that's not on a screen in front of us. You can get out and see these things in real life. So that's pretty exciting. So important things here, connect with nature. Take your kids birding anywhere. It's an easy thing to do. We're trying to connect with nature. We're trying to get back in tune with that kind of stuff. So everyone learns differently. The first point there, your kids, my kids, everyone's going to be a little different, even adults. If this is your first time birding as an adult, you just want to pick up this hobby with your kids, do it together. You can learn together. That's great. Just remember that everyone's going to learn things differently. So take your time. Don't rush things. Figure out what works best for you and try different things. It's okay to try stuff. And if you try one way and it doesn't work, then you can try another way the next time and just figure out what you enjoy the most, what works best for you and your kids or whoever you're birding with. And it'll make it a lot more enjoyable for everybody. So any age or interest level. Again, this is focused on birding with kids, but you can be any age to go birding. My children, all 4 of them, let's see, I have a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 15, and a 16-year-old, and all of them started when they were young. The older 2 started when they were about 4 and 5, and the younger 2 started when they were 2 to 3. And a lot of that was just, I would go birding and I'd take them with me, and they'd either kind of look if they wanted to or not look if they didn't want to, and play with rocks or wander or whatever around me, but they were there. That was the important thing. So just remember that everyone's going to learn differently. Your kids may latch onto something faster than another kid does, or have a different interest in birds than another child does, and that's totally fine. It's great for everybody to choose and pick what they like in this. It's not meant to be complicated. Birding is for everyone again, so anyone can go birding. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have ever gone birding. You can go out anytime and start this in any part of your life, and that's what makes it great. The last part here is to make it positive. Just do your best to make these experiences positive for your kids so they do enjoy it, because it's very easy to take your kids birding and wander around, have them very tired, not seeing any birds, not seeing what they wanted to see, and being upset or hungry or tired. That can happen sometimes. So do your best to make each birding experience or each nature experience a positive experience. So in this slide here, this is actually my father and my youngest daughter, Geneva, and she is looking at a baby long-eared owl over in East Idaho. So we just walked down this little trail at one of the wildlife management areas, and she obviously picked up some rocks on the way and had some fun doing that. But then she saw the owl, and there's another picture I have after this where she turns her head and she just got this great big smile on her face, and that's really what it's all about. Just a simple, happy, enjoyable time out observing and enjoying nature. Okay, so where do you start? To go birding, what do you have to do? Do you have to specifically be doing something or being in a certain location? And the answer is no. You can go birding anywhere. Um, Me as a child, the youngest kind of memory I have is chasing gulls in parking lots in East Idaho, in San Diego when we went down there to the zoo for a family trip. But I just remember seeing birds all over the place, and I would want to chase them and see what they were and get close to them. So birds are everywhere. That's the nice thing about birding. So you can go anywhere and you're going to probably run into some birds. So let's focus on little kids here, talk about that a little bit. Getting them started, you're going to want to start with something big that they can see. The small, beautiful warblers are fun, but having like a 2 or 3 year old using binoculars is going to be a little tricky. So you're going to want to maybe start them on something like a duck or a goose, go to a pond somewhere with water where they're going to see some big birds, gulls, crows, ravens, just anything that's big enough to catch their attention that they can watch. So that's a great way to start there for little kids. And then bright colors too. Drab sparrows are going to be a little harder for them to understand until they get older. So look for things with color that you can point out and they'll be able to pick up on. And then observe and learn together, whatever age group you're working with. And, whether you're with adults or children, you can do this with everybody. Observe what you're seeing, talk about it with each other, talk about maybe why the bird's doing what it's doing. And then if you're not sure, like do some research on that. See what you can find after you have that encounter and see what you can learn about that by searching the internet or reading books. There's lots of great information out there. But learn what the birds are doing, and that'll help you be a better birder overall. And that'll help your kids learn and grow as a birder as well. So then where to go? Again, anywhere works. You can bird all over the place. You can go out in the parking lot. You can go in your yard. You can go to a park. You can go to a nature preserve. Just all kinds of things. So anywhere works. Early morning is generally the best time to go birding. Throughout the day, like midday gets kind of slow. And then in the afternoon, there'll be kind of a pickup towards evening. So it just kind of depends on your time schedule. And you can really go out any of these times. You're just going to have maybe a different abundance of birds around different times of day. But morning is usually really good if you can get out in the morning. The summer, springtime, it's a little cooler before the heat of the day comes in, so the birds are a lot more active. Migration times are great to go birding in spring and fall. And winter is creeping in on us now here, but even winter's a great time to bird. There's lots of great birds I've been seeing reported around the Boise area right now. So it's really always a great time to get out and go birding. Some specific locations around the Boise area. And again, I'm new here in this area. I've only been here for about a year and a half, so I'm still learning all the great places to go. But the Greenbelt areas are good. Hyatt Hidden Lakes, Wilson Springs Pond, Catherine Albertson Park, Blacks Creek Bird Reserve. Also, if you get a chance, you could go up to Bogus Basin or Intermountain Bird Observatory at Lucky Peak. They have availability where you can go up there and watch them banding the birds and see the wild birds up there too when they're doing those projects. So lots of really cool places around here to observe all kinds of birds, whether it's the small stuff or the big stuff. So again, anywhere works. And then types of birding to try. So with little kids, some of these could be a little more challenging. Older kids will do better maybe at stationary, but we'll go through a few of these. So stationary birding, you're just going to pick a spot. You're going to sit somewhere by like a river or a stream or a lake, somewhere that's going to have some kind of activity because of either water being there or food resources, and just sit, just watch what happens. Let the birds kind of come into you. I've sat at feeders before. They're located out in like a wildlife area. So you just sit on a bench and you can watch the birds come in and feed, and you'll see all the different behaviors of the different species coming in there. Different places are going to bring in different stuff, but stationary birding can be really fun. It's relaxing. It's an easy thing to do. It also something you can do at your house. You could go sit in your yard. You could sit in your neighbor's yard. Yeah, it's an easy one to do. Just sit down, even look out your window. Sit down and watch. That's all you have to do for that. Now, with little kids, that gets a little tricky. So then you got to kind of use some active participation in that. Active birding is going to be more like if you're going to go on a hike somewhere, if you have a planned destination in mind and you're going to say, okay, we're going to hike from point A to point B, but we're going to bird on the way and see what birds we can find in between those 2 points, or see if maybe the destination has a special bird there that you really want to see. So that kind of thing. And then the useful things when you are birding, obviously field guides. There's a variety of those you can use. Um, there's our free apps from Cornell Lab of Ornithology, the Merlin and eBird apps. Those are great things to use. And Golden Eagle Audubon has a bunch of resources you can look at after this presentation to help you find things that would work for you. And then another kind of fun way you can learn birding, especially as little kids, because they can pick up on sound really good, is birding by sound. So you can get different bird sounds on different apps, or just on the internet or anywhere, but practice learning those bird sounds, or even just sitting outside listening to the things you hear and then trying to identify those. Learning birding by sound is a great resource, because then if you're somewhere doing something not birding, you hear that noise, you're gonna go, hey, I know what that is. My kids, when we lived in East Idaho, a few winters ago, we had 6 eastern blue jays show up at our feeders all winter long. So every morning we'd wake up, we'd go upstairs and have breakfast, but you'd hear those blue jays come in. You'd hear them squawking outside through the window. So we'd all run in the living room and watch to see what they were going to do. And they'd come in and clean up all the peanuts and then take off. But every day, as soon as we heard those squawks, everyone would just run to the window to see what they were going to do. And we recognized, obviously, that's the blue jay. So that helped us learn that bird. So birding by sound can be really fun to do with your kids and to do just by yourself or with others. Okay. And then binoculars. Binoculars. So with little kids, obviously you're going to want to use something cheaper and lightweight, shock-proof, drop-proof. They're going to drop them a lot. They're going to swing them around. They're not going to take great care of them. So maybe like the first thing, you can make some fake binoculars out of toilet paper rolls or something. And you can have the kids just hold them up to their eyes and look around to see what they're looking at, and just point out some objects, some targets. Say, hey, I see a big blue truck, or hey, I see a big green sign. Find some large objects that little kids can get used to practicing with fake binoculars, so they can at least be focused on something and say, okay, here's this object, I see that. And then as they get used to that, you can start saying, oh, here's something a little smaller, here's something a little smaller, and keep moving down like that. And then you can give them real binoculars, a small lightweight pair, shockproof, and they'll be good enough where they can see closer things to them, like in your yard or something. And you can do the same thing, point out large things first, have them look for those and make sure they're really seeing them, and then you can move to smaller things, and then you can say, all right, you tell me what you see. You find something and tell me to find it, and I'll see if I can find it. Make it like a game. So they're kind of in charge of that too. That makes them feel included. And then older children, you can graduate to nicer pairs of binoculars there. And again, on the Golden Eagle website, I believe there is some information on kids binoculars and birding. So check out those resources. That'll be more in-depth information for you. But the older kids, you can get them a nicer pair. They're going to know how to use the function of them better, be able to focus on smaller things, and it'll be a little more enjoyable that way. So again, practice and pick a target. That's kind of the main thing with all of this, is practice, go birding. You have to just do these things, be active with all this, and that'll help you have an enjoyable time continuing to learn and grow together. All right. And then next would be let them lead. So again, with kids, you want to take them out birding, but you want them to feel like this is something they're in charge of, or they're helping to be in charge of, because they will get bored. So if you take kids out, let them look for signs of birds. If you're walking somewhere and you don't see or hear a lot of birds, look for signs. So feathers, or nests in trees, eggshells on the ground if it's springtime or summer, or owl pellets if you're by trees that owls could be roosting in. Find bird signs, and then you can figure out what birds could have been there or were using those areas previously. And it's still helping you and the children to learn what birds are using these areas, what kind of habitat are we in. Because we're talking about birds, but we want to learn about the habitat and everything around us too. So again, let the kids lead. And you can do something like find a local bird. So you could say, hey, I want to see a mallard duck, excuse me. I'd like to see a mallard duck. So look up a mallard duck, find a picture of it, find what it's going to look like, and then find some good places that you'd want to go to try and find one of those. So obviously a lake or a river, and those will be good spots for you to check out. So another thing you can do when you go out birding is set specific goals. like a target list. You can make a list of you want to see a certain number of birds of one kind or color. So you can do specific color, but let the kids help decide what they want to focus on. You can search for a list of birds that are big or small, total number of birds in the area, or just total number in your birding route. So you can say, hey, I want to go out and see 30 species of birds today. And so we'll bird until we see 30 species, and then we can be done birding. And you don't have to do that. You can do it however you want. But that's just one idea. I birded like that with my kids before. We'll say, we want to see these certain birds or this total number. We're going to go out and look for that. When we're done, we're done. And that can take a long time or a short time. It just depends. But having some kind of goal helps your child say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is our goal. Let's see if we can get to that goal. They enjoy that kind of thing, at least from my experience. So that will help keep them focused a bit. So, all right. And then try different things with different ages. So outside of actual birding, you can always be doing stuff to continue learning about birds and helping them remember the birds they've seen and prepare or learn about others they haven't seen yet. So like coloring pages or coloring in general, some kids are really artistic. They like to draw birds. They like to draw the things they have seen or things they want to see. And sometimes they might want to just make up a bunch of birds they haven't seen before. So coloring and art can be a great way to help them still channel that bird kind of thoughts in their head, keep them interested. We talked about making fake binoculars, just doing fun little games like that. Making things into games was always great with kids. Draw birds at feeders. So if you had bird feeders at your house, you could have the kids draw the birds they are seeing and kind of make like a little chart or a list or something of the birds they've seen there. Older kids, you can do a practice with better binoculars, practice focusing on small things and moving things. That's always a little tougher when you're trying to follow something with your binoculars and it's moving all over the place, right? And then again, teach while you're observing. So every time you're looking at birds, just make sure you're teaching while you observe. This reminds me of a time when we were in Grand Teton National Park. It's actually where this owl picture was taken. But we were watching, I believe, a three-toed woodpecker chiseling away on a tree looking for some food, and he'd chisel the bark off, and we were taking pictures and watching him, and my kids kept seeing the bark flakes fall down off of the tree, and they're like, oh, what's he looking for? So he talked about he's chiseling that off, looking for food, trying to find the grubs to eat. And that made it more interesting, more enjoyable instead of, oh, there's a woodpecker. So talk about what's going on. Excuse me. Observe and learn together. Another good idea is to get a bird feeder. Bird feeders are easy ways to get kids involved with birding. You can do hummingbird feeders or seed feeders. And the kids can help cleaning or filling the feeders. You can make a nature space in your yard. So you have your bird feeders, you put a water source out there, you make some cover or habitat for them, plant some native plants. And again, talk to the kids about why you're planting what you're planting or why you're making a brush pile or certain flowers that hummingbirds want to come to, because it's all to attract the birds, attract the pollinators, just be kind of a natural environment there for them. So again, that's educating them while you're doing that. But bird feeders are, again, a great way to do that. I do work at Wild Birds Unlimited. We have all kinds of bird feeders here. So we'd be happy to talk to you if you want to set up something like that in your yard. And it's great for photography too, or drawing, just all kinds of options. And you can bring in birds from around you just to your place. So if you're busy and you don't or aren't able to get out a lot of times, you can always enjoy the birds in your yard. It's a really nice, peaceful thing. So, and then playing games. This is kind of more along the lines of birding when you're not birding. So these are some games in this picture that we have that I played with my kids over the years. The two top games, 100-piece memory games, and then match a pair of birds. Those are really fun. My kids have all played those, and we still play those. And they're just simple matching game. We have two pictures of the bird. They're all mixed up, and they have to match them. But we have this thing where we flip them over and we always say the name of what that bird is, what the other bird is. So that's just always in your head. And then when we've gone birding places, the kids will say, hey, I've seen that bird. That was in the bird game, right? They'll always ask me stuff like that if they see something that they remember from something like this. And then flashcards or like birds of a feather is a fun little migratory bird kind of game. Wingspan, a lot of people are familiar with that. Just things that are getting birds in your head all the time, even if you're not out actually bird watching. Books are always good too. Reading to kids is a fun, enjoyable thing. It's great for them. It's great if they can read back with you. But reading to them about conservation stories, I do that a lot with my kids. We look for books about birds, or like a conservation thing. For instance, there was one we found from the UK about a spoon-billed sandpiper. So my youngest son really likes that book. He likes me to read that book to him most nights I'm with him. So that's a fun one. Drawing and painting birds. Again, art is a great way to let kids express their interest in birds and other parts of nature and wildlife. And then local organizations, so like Audubon Society. Here in Boise, we have the Golden Eagle Audubon. We have Wild Birds Unlimited, where we can help you with bird feeder stuff. We have Intermountain Bird Observatory that does bird banding, and you can get involved with that and go actually see them banding the small songbirds and owls occasionally when they do the owl banding. And then we have the World Center for Birds of Prey. You can also go out there and check out all the conservation efforts they do. I'm dealing with birds of prey from all over the world, not just in Idaho. So there's a lot of really cool organizations around here that Golden Eagle can link you up with that'll help you continue to learn about birds and learn about birds that maybe you won't get a chance to go travel and see in the world, but still could learn about and understand why they're important to us. All right. And then just here at the end, just always remember to make birding fun and enjoyable. So a quick little story about a not enjoyable time. I had my oldest son and my youngest daughter with me in Arizona. We were watching some birds, and my little girl got tired of birding. She was about 4 or 5, I'll say. But she got tired of birding. We were seeing some really pretty birds, but she just didn't want to do it anymore. So I left with her, and my dad and my son stayed and watched the birds. And we walked down the trail and she found a tarantula. And that was way more exciting than the bird at the time. And so we followed the tarantula to see what it was doing. And that just helped her have kind of a break from that. So when you're out birding, it can be a lot for kids, especially little kids. So if they don't want to look at the bird, give them a break. Let them look at something else. Take them down by a stream or a creek, or let them look at rocks. As you saw in that first photo, my little girl had a rock. Kids love rocks. They'll bring home all the rocks they can find from anywhere. But that's just a little break, something different. So we wanted to learn about birds, but also appreciate all the nature that's all around you. So seeing stuff like that, like the tarantula, that was a really exciting thing. So we learned a little bit about tarantulas while we were out there and why they were there. But yeah, just give them a break from that. Don't force it into being a difficult thing or an unpleasant thing. Let them learn and kind of enjoy at their pace. So plan and set goals, whether it's what you want to see or where you want to go. Of course, for kids, you always want to bring snacks and water. Make sure they're not going to be grumpy and hungry and tired. And continue learning when you're not birding with board games or books or pictures, any of that kind of stuff. Just let kids have access to it. They don't have to use it all the time, but if you have access to it for them, they probably will start coming back to it. And that's kind of how my kids are. So I hope it would be similar for a lot of people, at least. And then focus on what they're interested in. If you have kids that are interested in just raptors, then go focus on raptors. If you have kids that really want to learn about ducks, then focus on ducks. Focus on whatever they want to learn about, and you can, put your interest in there too. But let your kids know that like this is something you want to do with them together, and learn about what their interests are, and they're allowed to have those interests. So make sure you do that. And then really at the end, just teach them to appreciate what we have around us, because we have some amazing birds around us all the time. And if you are watching the birds around you, you learn about them, you get used to what's regular, what's common and uncommon, what you can see at different times of year, and birding can continue as much as you want it to throughout the year. There's always going to be something different going on. You're going to get used to patterns that maybe you're familiar every year, but then you'll have something change. And the more you're paying attention to that, the more fun it's going to be to say, hey, I recognize all this, but this is different. Let's figure out what this is. And you see some new birds, some new excitement there. But birding with kids is a great thing. I've enjoyed it for all the years I've been able to do it with my kids, and, birding with my dad and others. It's great to be out in nature. It's great to have that connection with the world around us. And there's all kinds of great resources through Golden Eagle and others that'll help you excel at this and enjoy it together. So yeah, get out and do some birding. Thanks for coming.